I didn't plan to overhear it. I was only trying to find the bathroom. The party was too loud. Laughter bouncing off the glass walls. Music thumping like a heartbeat that wasn't mine. I slipped out of the crowd, half drunk on nerves more than the cheap champagne, and that's when I heard her voice. My wife's voice. It came from behind the half-closed door of the conference room, the one with the big company logo etched into the glass. Her tone was soft, playful in a way I hadn't heard in months. I froze, my hand still on the door handle. "Come on," she said, giggling. "You know it's not like that. You're just a friend." That sentence landed like a knife between my ribs. The man's reply was lower, almost a whisper. I couldn't make out the words, but I didn't have to. I heard the pause afterward. The kind of pause where two people are standing too close. I should have walked in. Should have slammed the door, made a scene, done something. Instead, I backed away like a coward, like maybe if I didn't see it, it wouldn't be real. When she came back out 10 minutes later, she was glowing. Her cheeks were flushed, her lipstick slightly smudged, and she looked right through me like I was part of the wallpaper. "Where'd you disappear to?" she asked, pretending nothing was wrong. "Bathroom," I lied. We drove home in silence. She hummed along to the radio, scrolling through her phone between traffic lights. I watched her reflection in the window. That same reflection I used to think looked like safety. But now it looked like a stranger sitting next to me, someone rehearsing her smiles for someone else. When we got home, she kissed me on the cheek. Not the lips, just the cheek. Then she went to shower. I sat in the kitchen, staring at the clock, hearing the water run upstairs. My phone buzzed on the table, a message from my boss, reminding me of the promotion I was supposed to accept Monday morning. I stared at it for a long time. Then I deleted the message. Because I already knew what I was going to do. I wasn't going to wait for proof. I wasn't going to ask questions. I was done pretending I didn't hear what I heard. Monday morning, I was going to quit my job. And she was going to find out exactly what it feels like when someone you love walks away without a warning. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a little. I just lay there, wide awake, staring at the ceiling fan as it spun in slow, lazy circles above us. Alina slept beside me, breathing steady, completely unbothered, like her world was perfectly intact, like nothing had happened. I wondered what it felt like to sleep that peacefully. I wondered if her dreams were of him. I knew his name now. Mason. I'd heard it twice before at dinner parties, but I hadn't remembered it until she said it through the conference room door like it was something precious. I replayed the sound of her laughter in my head on a loop, like some kind of punishment I deserved for not acting sooner. By 6 a.m., I was in the kitchen, typing out my resignation letter. I didn't even bother making coffee. I didn't need caffeine. I was running on a mix of adrenaline, humiliation, and something that felt dangerously close to rage. Not the explosive kind, but the slow-burning kind you swallow day after day until it poisons everything. The letter wasn't dramatic. I didn't name names. I didn't even explain why. I just thanked my boss for the opportunity, said I'd be leaving effective immediately, and hit send. Just like that. 7 years of loyalty, of late nights and missed vacations, gone in a single email. I didn't even pack up my desk. I wouldn't be going back. When Alina came downstairs in her robe, yawning and scrolling through her phone, I was already dressed. She glanced at me once, then twice, like something was off. "You're up early," she said, pouring herself oat milk into a glass like it was any other Tuesday. "I quit," I said. She blinked. "What?" "I quit my job. This morning." There was a long pause. She tilted her head slightly, unsure whether to laugh or ask if I was joking. But I didn't flinch. I just stared at her, waiting to see which mask she'd reach for first. "Why would you do that?" she asked carefully. Not concerned. Just calculating. I shrugged. Felt like the right time. "You seemed to be having fun at the party last night. Maybe it's time I had a change too." She frowned, setting down the glass. "You're not making sense. Are you mad at me?" That was the moment I realized something ugly. She wasn't going to admit anything. Not even a sliver of guilt. She was going to gaslight her way out of this. She was going to play the confused wife, the innocent professional, the loyal partner. "No," I said quietly. "I'm just done pretending everything's fine." Then I walked past her, grabbed my keys, and stepped outside. The air was sharp, cold against my face, but it felt cleaner than anything inside that house. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I wasn't coming back until I figured out what else she'd been lying about. And deep down, I had a feeling that party was only the surface. Because people like Mason don't just appear out of nowhere. And wives like Alina don't just fall into emotional affairs overnight. This had been building. I'd just been too blind to see it. I didn't go far that morning. Just drove until the city blurred into a string of forgettable gas stations and cracked sidewalks. I ended up parked in front of an old diner that looked like it hadn't updated its menu since the 90s. I sat there for nearly half an hour before I even went inside. And when I finally did, I ordered coffee I wouldn't drink and pancakes I wouldn't touch. I just needed somewhere that didn't smell like her perfume. My phone buzzed a few times. First, a missed call from Alina. Then a message. Can we talk when you get home? No emojis. No apologies. Just the same, sanitized version of concern she used when our dishwasher broke or the internet went out. Like my unraveling was just another inconvenient delay in her schedule. I stared at that message a long time. Then I opened my laptop. I hadn't planned on looking through her calendar, not at first. But when you live with someone long enough, you stop thinking of these things as invasive. I had access to it, synced through our shared account for years. Grocery reminders, anniversary dinners, doctor appointments, work trips. It was all there, innocuous, boring, ordinary, until it wasn't. I started scrolling back through previous months, looking for, I don't know, something, anything. And that's when I found it. A recurring event called Q2 Content Review, Offsite. It sounded official, boring even, but it had been popping up every other Thursday at exactly 6:45 p.m., going back almost 4 months. The weird part, every instance had a different location tagged, not her office, but hotels. Trendy little boutique ones across the city. Not the kind where you'd host a budget-friendly team meeting. I clicked on one, then another. Same format, same vague title. And every single time, it ended at 8 p.m. sharp. No notes, no attached documents, nothing that screamed work, nothing that smelled like marketing strategy. I just sat there, stunned. You always hear people say things like, I had a gut feeling, but I didn't. Not exactly. What I felt was this eerie kind of detachment, like I wasn't even in my own life anymore. Like I was reading someone else's script and realizing I was the character who doesn't make it to the final scene. I copied the addresses, all of them, pasted them into a file. I wasn't sure why. Maybe to prove to myself later that I wasn't imagining it, that I hadn't turned paranoid for no reason. The waitress came by, asked if I needed anything. I said no, paid for the food I hadn't touched, and walked back to the car. I sat there for a long time with the engine running and the radio off. She had planned it all so quietly, so precisely. And the worst part? She probably thought I'd never notice. Because that's what made her confident. Not that she was careful, but that she thought I was too soft to ever question her. Maybe she was right. Until now. I didn't go home that night. Not because I was angry or afraid of what she'd say, or even because I wanted space, but because I knew that the moment I walked through that door, she'd study my face the way she always did. And if she looked hard enough, she'd see that something in me had changed. Not cracked, changed. There's a difference. Instead, I checked into a cheap motel outside the city, the kind that still used keycards with demagnetized strips and smelled faintly of bleach and regret. I told her I was staying with a friend from college who needed help moving. She didn't question it. Or maybe she didn't want to. Either way, she didn't call back. That silence, it told me everything I needed to know. I spent the next 3 days watching her like an outsider. I wasn't stalking. I wasn't hacking. I didn't need to. I had the tools already. Location sharing, our home security cameras, even the calendar she'd forgotten was still synced to our shared cloud. Thursday arrived. I already knew what time she'd leave, which blouse she'd wear, and which lies she'd rehearse before walking out the door. I didn't follow her. That would have been obvious. Instead, I waited, watching the motion alert on our front door camera as she stepped outside, purse in hand, car keys in her mouth like she always did when she was flustered. She walked fast, like someone who was late for something she didn't want to miss. At 6:42 p.m., her phone pinged from the Midtown Arlo. That boutique hotel with the rooftop bar and the 2 trendy neon signs. Q2 Content Review, Offsite. Right on time. I stared at the dot on my screen like it could bleed. It didn't move for the next hour. I could have driven there. Could have walked in. Could have asked for a room number and burned everything down metaphorically. But I didn't. Because something in me had shifted from emotional to strategic. I wasn't interested in a confrontation anymore. I wanted clarity. I wanted to know not just if she was lying, but how far it went. I needed the whole picture, the timeline, the pattern, the psychology behind it. This wasn't about catching her red-handed. This was about watching the fire burn without blinking. The next morning, she came home early. Earlier than I expected. Hair damp, makeup removed. She kissed me softly on the forehead like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't disappeared into a hotel for 73 minutes that she'd never mention again. She asked if I wanted eggs. I said yes. And that's when it hit me. She'd already rehearsed this. She had a script for guilt, a routine for pretending. She was too calm, too practiced. Like I wasn't the first man she'd lied to over breakfast. But I wasn't going to stop her. Not yet. Because the next Thursday, I'd be waiting inside that hotel myself. And this time, she wouldn't see me coming. I arrived 40 minutes early. The hotel lobby smelled like citrus and wood polish, the kind of scent engineered to make people feel wealthier than they are. I wasn't dressed like the clientele. Just a hoodie, jeans, and a plain black cap pulled low. No one questioned me. People rarely notice quiet men who don't make eye contact. I ordered a seltzer with lime at the rooftop bar, then picked the table in the far back, the one next to a heat lamp and a massive potted plant that blocked half the room. From there, I could see the entrance and the mirrored wall behind the bar. 2 vantage points. 1 reflection. I didn't look at my phone. Didn't check the time. I just sat there with my hands folded under the table, replaying every moment that had led me here. The lasagna. The conference room whisper. The smudged lipstick. The Thursday hotel check-ins. And still, a part of me hoped, truly hoped, that this was all some sick misunderstanding. That she'd walk in alone, order a drink, maybe meet an actual colleague, and I'd realize I'd lost my mind somewhere between suspicion and obsession. But when she walked in, that part of me died. She wore a green coat I hadn't seen before. Heeled boots. Hair straightened. Not office casual, not even close. She looked like someone arriving for a date, not a debrief. And trailing behind her, as expected, was Mason. He wore arrogance like cologne. One hand in his pocket, the other on her lower back as they passed the hostess. I watched them laugh, lean close, touch without touching. They sat 2 tables from mine, unaware that I could see them clearly through the gap in the planter leaves. He ordered wine. She didn't stop him. They didn't look like people having an affair. That's the strangest part. They looked like a couple who'd been together for years, comfortable, rhythmic, like they knew exactly how to choreograph this without crossing any visible line. But I knew the rhythm. I knew how she played with her necklace when she was nervous. I knew how she fake laughed when she was trying too hard to seem effortless. I knew the tilt of her head when she was complimenting someone she wanted to impress. It was all there. I didn't cry. I didn't clench my fists. I didn't even blink. I just sat with it, absorbed the image like a man watching a photograph develop in real time. Because that's what this was now, a snapshot. A moment I would carry forever. The moment I stopped being her husband and started being her audience. They didn't kiss. No hands under the table. No blatant betrayal. But what I saw was worse in a way. It was routine. Rehearsed. This wasn't the beginning of something. This was the middle. Possibly even the end. I left before they did. Quietly. No drama. No confrontation. I didn't want to be the man shouting in a lobby or standing in the rain begging for answers she'd never give honestly. I went home, unlocked the door, and sat on the edge of the bed. Her side was still made. Her phone charger still curled on the nightstand like a sleeping snake. I stared at it and whispered something so soft I don't think even I heard it. I knew everything now, but I still didn't know what to do. And that was the most dangerous part. By the time she got home that night, I'd already deleted the security footage. She walked through the door humming, a soft, tuneless sound, the kind people make when they've had a glass of wine and think no one's watching. I sat at the kitchen table, pretending to scroll through my phone. She didn't even flinch when she saw me, just smiled and kicked off her boots like she always did after coming home from work dinners. Long meeting? I asked without looking up. She stretched, walked to the fridge, pulled out sparkling water. Ugh, yeah? Derek wouldn't stop pitching the new rebranding concept. You would have hated it. Derek, not Mason. She didn't even blink when she lied. That, more than anything, is what did it for me. Not the affair, not the deception, but how effortless it had become for her. How easily she summoned other people's names to cover her tracks. I realized something in that moment. She didn't think I'd ever leave. Not really. She believed, deep down, that I was safe, predictable, a man of comfort and silence. And maybe I had been. But people like her always miss the moment when comfort curdles into calculation. Over the next week, I started planning. Not an explosion, not a confrontation, something slower, smarter. She'd trained herself to lie with such grace. I needed to become just as elegant in my doubt. I started asking small questions. Casual ones. Harmless. Like, how's Derek doing these days? Still going to those off-site reviews on Thursdays? Think your boss would mind if I stopped by the office sometime for lunch? I wasn't probing. I was mapping. Watching her answers. Watching her flinch half a second before she spoke. That's where the real truth lived. In the space before her words. Then came the emails. I logged into our shared home server, the one she always forgot I had access to, and started combing through the archives. Not her personal email, of course. I wasn't stupid. But our shared inbox. The one we used for travel itineraries, Amazon receipts, party invites from neighbors, she always ignored. Buried in the clutter was a forwarded confirmation from 4 weeks ago. A reservation at a jazz bar downtown. 2 guests. Table by the window. Under his name. Mason Ellis. The email came from her address. No comment. No context. Just a timestamp that overlapped perfectly with another one of her Thursday offsites. It was small. It wasn't proof of physical intimacy. But it was enough. That was the night I took off my wedding ring and put it in the drawer next to my old passport and expired gym fob. It didn't feel angry. It felt surgical. Like I'd amputated a part of myself that had gone numb long ago. I didn't tell her. Not yet. She didn't notice, anyway. She had no idea the foundation was cracking beneath her. No clue I had started taking photos of the calendar entries. No clue I had printed out the jazz bar reservation and slid it into the back of a novel she would never touch. No clue I had opened a private bank account under my middle name and begun quietly transferring savings $200 at a time. I wasn't planning revenge. I was planning an exit. But not just any exit, a silent one. The kind that makes them wonder, long after you're gone, when exactly you stopped being theirs. I waited for her to bring it up. That's the cruelest part, I think. Not in what I did, but in what I withheld. I didn't slam doors. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't ask why she lied about the jazz bar, or why she kept using Derek like a verbal shield, or why she suddenly started turning off location sharing on her phone 2 Thursdays in a row. I just stopped speaking first. Every conversation from that point forward started with her. Every question. Every hollow, how was your day? Every attempt at casual normalcy. She was fishing for something. For cracks. For an outburst. But I gave her none. I answered calmly. Smiled politely. Passed her the salt at dinner. Made the bed in the mornings. I kissed her on the cheek, not the lips. She didn't notice the first few times. But by the 4th night, she hesitated just long enough for me to catch it. Her body leaned toward me like muscle memory, then stopped. She looked up at me, waiting for contact, and all I gave her was distance. She didn't ask, but her eyes did. She started staying home more after that. No more off-site reviews. No late dinners. Suddenly, Thursdays became self-care nights. She made tea, wore pajamas before sunset, lit candles like we were in a spa commercial. I watched her try to reverse gravity, to pull our rhythm back into sync. But it was too late. I wasn't on the same page anymore. I wasn't even in the same book. One night, while she showered, I left something on the kitchen counter, just one sheet of paper. Folded once. No name, no note. Just a printout of the reservation confirmation. Mason's name. The jazz bar. The time. The table. I didn't wait for her to find it. I left the house and drove aimlessly for hours. Parked under an old overpass near the train yard. Listened to the silence. Watched headlights drag across the wet pavement like ghosts with somewhere better to be. When I came home, the paper was gone. Not shredded. Not torn. Just removed. Like it had never been there. She didn't speak a word about it. Neither did I. But that night, I heard her cry in the bathroom. Just once. Quietly. Behind a closed door. It wasn't dramatic. There was no gasp, no sob. Just a small, broken sound, like someone accidentally dropped a glass in the dark and didn't want anyone to notice. I didn't go to her. I didn't knock. I just lay there on my side of the bed, listening to the faucet run for longer than it needed to. The next morning, she made pancakes. My favorite. The kind she hadn't made in years. She smiled too much. Laughed too loudly. Kissed my forehead like she used to when we first got married. But it wasn't for me. It was a performance, a late audition for a role she already lost. Because she finally understood. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was done, and I was already halfway gone. The day I left, the sky was clear for the first time in weeks. Not warm, not sunny, just still. No wind. No clouds. The kind of silence the world makes right before something big changes, even if no one else notices. I'd packed the night before. Not much, just what I needed. A suitcase, a duffel bag, a worn leather journal I hadn't written in for years. I didn't take everything. I left her the apartment, the furniture, the framed photos from our honeymoon. Not out of kindness, but because I no longer wanted to carry any of it into the next chapter of my life. She was still asleep when I stood in the doorway and looked at her for the last time. No makeup, no lies, just Alina, curled beneath the blanket, breathing softly, unaware that this would be the morning she woke up alone. And despite everything, I didn't feel hate. I didn't feel revenge. I just felt quiet. I left a letter on the kitchen table. Short, 3 lines. You already know why I'm leaving. I hope you heal from whatever made you forget how to love honestly. Please don't contact me. I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. My absence would sign it for me. I walked out without slamming the door. Took the stairs instead of the elevator. I didn't look back at the building as I stepped into the street. I just started walking. By noon, I was in a new city, small, coastal, the kind where people wave at you for no reason. I rented a studio near the pier and got a part-time job at a bookstore run by an old man who didn't care about my resume. I started cooking again, reading again, sleeping, truly sleeping, for the first time in months. A few weeks later, I got a letter. No return address. I knew the handwriting. Inside was a single sentence, written in blue ink. I never stopped loving you. I just forgot how to show it. I didn't reply. Some doors, once closed, don't need to be reopened. Some stories end not with shouting or shattered glass, but with silence and relief. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do isn't to win them back. It's to walk away with your dignity intact, and your peace finally beginning.